All right. Well, I'm a little bit excited today, Dave. I think I already mentioned this already, but this is the first time I'm having somebody on the podcast other than me, and so I'm really
Dang,
looking
I'm the
forward to
first
it.
guest. Okay, sorry. I
Yeah,
ruined your
first
intro.
guest. I did 29 episodes by myself, where people have had to listen to just me talk about stuff in my brain, and now they're getting the benefit of somebody else's brain and perspective, which I'm excited about. And it was not a a light decision to ask you specifically to do this because of the fact that I wanted to have somebody on that I knew had changed their own personal story. And I am so excited to get into all of this stuff with you. Like figuring out what your story is, deciding to start a new story, going through all the messy middle parts of it. Also, the fact that you and I have a very similar thread in our lives as far as our life partners are also our business partners.
Yep.
And there's some unique interpersonal stuff that goes into that and some seasoning there that you need to work on. So I'm excited to dive into all this. But before we jump in, Dave, could you tell the audience just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, man. Well, first, thank you for having me on, and I'm honored. I didn't realize I was the first. I was the first guest. That's crazy,
I didn't want to
man.
scare you away.
No, no, don't don't worry about that. You never will do that. I love sharing my story. My name's Dave Jones. I am right now an entrepreneur. I was a former educator for Tacoma Public Schools for 15 years. I was a former assistant principal for three. So three of those 15, my last three I spent as an assistant principal. I'm an activist, a videographer, a podcaster. I was teaching business ed when I was a teacher. So I was teaching business, and now I'm doing business. So after I got out of education, my wife and I opened up a Windermere office, a Windermere Abode, a real estate brokerage here in Old Town Tacoma. And yeah, that's been 5 years. And then even just this year, we opened up our second office, which that was not on the roadmap when we first started. But you know, you just never know what's going to happen in life, and who knows what the next five is going to look like for me.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing, and having been your friend before, kind of, we started to get to know each other right around that transition
Yeah,
point,
we
right?
did.
Like our wives knew each other,
Yep.
but then we got introduced with probably some backyard movie nights and
Yep.
some common friend circles and things like that. And I remember the first time that I met you, and I remember right away, you observe people and how they interact with their family and with their, we both have kids. And I just remember specifically thinking, like, I really like this guy. He is like, he's very authentic. I can tell he's himself in multiple situations. Like, he's just Dave. He's himself.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel like he's on in different ways. Like, he's comfortable in his own skin. I love the way that I see you interacting as a father with your sons, and they are such an amazing reflection of you and Anne as well. Like,
Appreciate
just,
that, man.
I love that my kids look up to your kids as well. I don't know if you've noticed that dynamic,
Oh,
but
I,
when they're in the backyard at a movie night, oh yeah, Clark and Margot, they think that your kids are amazing. So,
that's
and then
dope,
seeing
man.
you and Anne work together as well. I mean, kind of like I said, seeing you at that first part of when we met, and then you were just like deciding whether or not you wanted to make this really big
Man.
change in your own personal story professionally and also life impact wise,
Hmm.
because Anne had already been involved in real estate, was a successful realtor for
Yep.
years. And then how did that conversation even come about with the two of you? Because you were in education and doing really well.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll say this. Like we talked. Let me rewind. So when she was a selling agent and I was a teacher, she we started out by me shooting her listing videos, and so she was able to go into listing consultations in 2011 and say
Mhm.
like, I will give you a video for every single house that she sold. She could make a video because I was shooting the video. And so I was doing that in addition to my job after I got done coaching. I was a former head coach at Stadium High School, the basketball. And that's where the leadership component comes in. I've always been a coach in my whole life. I've always been a coach
Mhm.
or a captain of the team or whatever. And so once we had a little dabble of like working together, and it was kind of like, okay, we have complementary skill sets here. There was something there. I said, and then I went to go be an assistant principal. I went back to school to be an assistant principal because I stopped coaching, and then went into leadership in that way. And so then when this opportunity came up, we already knew that we had complementary skill sets, but that does not mean that we knew how to work together. We knew we had the tools. We just didn't know that was a whole thing in itself. So what we would do, so when we first initially made the decision, we were walking. It was a summer night, walking in late June, and walked downtown. Did a quick little walk, and well, not quick. If you know my wife, there's no such thing as a quick walk. She walks quick, but it's going to be a long walk. And so we went down, and we were in downtown Tacoma, and we actually ended that night. We were looking at the spots that we potentially could be, and actually the spot that we were going to go get is by Anthem, right next to Anthem here in Old Town. And we ended up not getting that spot. And so then, at that time though, that June night, we ended that conversation saying like, "You're not ready." I was like, "Yeah, I'm not ready. I just don't. I can't. I just like to. I'm a planner. I like to be able to plan things and see what's coming." So I had a whole life. My whole professional career was ran by bells. So I'm an educator, and bells and schedules and things like that. So next day, I'm in a meeting with my science staff. We called them PLCs, professional learning communities. And we were just reviewing some things, and it'd been about an hour, and I didn't say one word. And this is like 5 people in this meeting. And the school's empty because the kids are out. It's late June. And one of my friends, and I still talk to Trevor to this day, Trevor says, "Dave, you haven't said anything. Are you all right?" And at that moment, I just said, "You know what? I need to go outside for a sec." And so then when I walked outside, this is the back side of Foss High School. I walked out in the back in the little gravel out there and just called Ann and said, "Hey, I'm going to quit." And she said, "Whoa, wait." I was like, "No, it's already done." Like
Wow.
Yeah. I was just, it was
Can
like
you
that.
tell me a little bit more about that feeling? Like, do you remember the feeling or the moment in that meeting where you were like, it sounds like a switch just flipped for you.
The minute he said, "Dave, you haven't said anything for an hour," you said, and I said, "Wow, I haven't." And I was just like, you know what? I just have something on my mind. I was like, I have something on my mind. Just I'm going to go out, step out real quick. And they kept doing the meeting. And I just told her like, "Hey, I'm done." And the reason why, it wasn't because I didn't like the job. It wasn't because I didn't want to be there. It was because I knew that if this is a meeting with no kids in the building and it's after school, we're all elated, it's a great time, and I'm still not thinking and I'm not doing that 100%, I can't. I'm going to get ate up in the next year because you can't do that work not being 100% in. So I knew that because I'm passionate about kids. I'm passionate about school and education and things. And so then I was just like, there's no way I'm going to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. That's robbing the kids. It's robbing our staff. It's robbing, like, I'm not going to be a dead log here. Like, I can't even talk in this meeting because I'm thinking about the next move. So if you're thinking about
your brain was already thinking of moves in that future business.
Yep.
The future date.
Yeah, because I knew I wanted to do it. I wasn't ready. It was like, well, guess what?
Yeah.
I was like, well, you might as well just jump. And so then I was like, and we obviously we were planning, and we had, I know that not everyone's in that position to do that. We happened to be in that position to do that. It's still scary. It don't matter. And so then I was like, you know what? I can't, there's no way I'm going to rob these people, for the next year. They're not going to happen. So I just said, you know what? I'm done. And actually that was a Tuesday. I think it was a Monday or Tuesday. It was early that week. And the end of that week, we were going to have me and my other colleagues, my assistant principal, my principal, we were going to have just a meeting at her house on the lake. She lives on Lake Steilacoom. Lake Steilacoom? Yeah. Anyway, and so, yeah, that was the week, And so then right before that, I hit up my assistant principal. We're still friends this day. And I just said, "Hey," and she was like, "What?" Because we were pretty tight.
Well, to lose a high-performing player like you, I'm sure that wasn't, something that they were just wanted to kind of let go by. Like, you were good at what you did. And what's interesting,
it depends on who you ask.
Yeah. Let's assume, for the sake of the podcast, Dave was really good at what he did.
Yeah. Well,
and then you decided, like, you started making videos, you started doing other stuff, and you found your brain wanting to play there.
Yeah.
in meetings,
Yeah.
in something that it's not that you didn't love it anymore. Like you said, it's just that your future self was already starting to write a story that you were really enjoying,
Yep.
kind of let play out. And then I could do this, and then I could do this, and this would allow me to do this.
Yep.
And you followed it. You know.
And what I was learning about myself, because I was teaching business education, and this is a Dr. Randall Pinkett-ism. He made a book. He wrote a book called Black Faces and White Places. Really good book. He's actually the first black winner of The Apprentice.
Oh, okay.
45 show. So anyway, he's the first black winner of that. We had him in for a book study at Foss and stuff like that. I met him and we read his book and stuff. He's a great dude. But anyway, he called it being an intrapreneur versus an entrepreneur. So an entrepreneur.
Tell me more about that. Yeah.
So an entrepreneur, the concept of an entrepreneur is someone who's works within a system, like a school system or a hospital, whatever, medical system. You work within a system, but you move like an entrepreneur. Like I was making content for the science department and whatever. So I was doing that in addition to being a principal. I was holding mentorship clubs. I was doing, I was just doing, because I'm a business ed person. Like I like to do things that are just, I have my job, but I was also creating content around my job. And so I was moving like an entrepreneur. It wasn't from a financial or monetary standpoint. It was more just from a looking at things in a different way and creating content and creating other synergy around the job that helps me do the job better. And so I thought that was an interesting concept. So I was like, oh, I've always been an entrepreneur. I just didn't know it. I was an entrepreneur. And so now I'm out in the world. And,
I've never heard that put that way before.
Yeah.
And I remember whenever I was working as a consultant, whenever I would be at a job at a large enterprise company or something like that, that when I was not in a role that I felt at least, I was able to, what you just described as an entrepreneur, like make moves within, make it interesting within, make content within, like act like an entrepreneur, like you own the business.
Yep.
And be able to have enough elbows out to be able to say, I want to do some cool stuff in here. I don't want to just follow a recipe.
Yep.
When I didn't feel that way, that's when I would just close down. That's when you just got clock in, clock out, Aaron, who's going to do the bare minimum, get his paycheck and leave. Because I don't feel like I'm actually creating or contributing anything new.
100%. And you're a creator.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I've noticed that in you as well, and I think that's why we vibed right away as well. I was like, it wasn't just that like you were going to transition to being in a brokerage and being a co-owner of a brokerage. It was like all of a sudden, as soon as you did it, it was like all cylinders. It was like we're doing a podcast, I'm making videos, I'm doing clips, I'm interviewing people. Like I was like, this man's on fire. Like you wanted to tell stories, and you just like it was kind of like. You found a way as an entrepreneur in your story before to make it work. Right. But once it feels like those reins were off of you, you were just like running.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did that feel to like make that transition from there? Is it a little bit of both? Is it a little bit of like, it's great because there's so much freedom, but also you're kind of like, I can do anything. So it can be a little paralyzing because you can do anything.
Right, right.
What do I choose to do to help the business grow?
I don't know. I'm going to butcher the saying here, but with great responsibility comes great whatever. Like
with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah. So
Spider-Man
with great power comes great responsibility. So it was one of those moments. It was really hard, to be honest. It was that first year when I quit. So I quit in the summer. So that was the summer when I quit. In education after 15 years. So stripping my whole identity, no longer Mr. Jones, done. Like, and then moving into this next phase, it was like, okay, now I'm Anne's husband. So that was hard. Like I have a master's degree.
Yeah.
I shoot video. I'm over here doing this stuff. I'm managing a hip hop artist over here. Like I'm doing, I've been a head coach in the city. Like I'm on the basketball scene out here. Like people know who I am as this, and now I come into a whole industry, and guess what? People don't really know who you. People don't know you. They know you in that little small segment, but no one's paying attention to you, bro. So I had to restructure and recalibrate and build myself back up in terms of my identity of who I was and what was I about, what was my values. Like, I'm now owner of a company that I've never been. I'm not the expert here anymore. I'm no longer the expert. So when people aren't the expert of something, typically they fold, or they just say, they go back to what they know.
Yeah,
And
right. It's comfortable. It's safe.
Right. And so, because the hard part is stripping yourself down and saying, like, what do I bring to this table? What are the skills that I can bring that are transferable from my last gig, and I still have value here? And how do I provide value for whatever this role is? So that was probably the most difficult part, was the identity. I say the Anne's husband part jokingly. I still get called Anne's husband, but
no, but it feels that way, right? And I know that there's people that, listen to this podcast as well, that are looking at like changing their story in some way,
Yep.
like making a big leap, and like if they feel like they're kind of just become an NPC player in their own life, like they want to become the main character again. Like
Yeah.
they have to be intentional and figure out exactly what that story is going to be.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've made that transition, but there is that stage, right? Like you're just starting a new story, and there's other people that are further along in that story, or in your case, a partner that already like knows this industry backwards and forwards and is already well known within it, and you have to create your own new identity within it.
Yeah, and that's what was happening, in real time. So what you saw was me trying to, it might have come off as like, oh, he's creating content, he's doing these things, and for me, what that was finding my way. Like I was just finding my way, and so when we talk, by doing, and when we talk about people,
and seeing kind of like whatever you saw, you were giving that to us.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we got to see through Dave's eyes, kind of how all this works. I remember thinking like, if you were to pitch me a concept as a production company, like if you were to pitch me like, we're going to do a behind the scenes thing of a brokerage, I'd be like, wow, that sounds really engaging. But like, I remember thinking like, oh, this is so cool. I'm getting to know the people that work here. Look, they're fun. They do stuff like this. They're kind of silly sometimes. Also, there's like a human element to it. There's been social justice stuff and conversations that have spun up because of the fact that you decided to turn on a camera and start recording stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you just started.
Yeah.
And so many people just don't start. They just they want it to be perfect, and so they keep working on it, and they never release it.
Yes.
Because they're afraid of it not being perfect. And you just did it.
And like we were saying before, like you're robbing the world of your talent, you're robbing the world of your story. And that's why I like about this podcast, this story. Like I think it's criminally slept on, for one, because everyone wants to tell their story in whatever way, or else social media would be nothing. Social media is huge because everyone has an innate human like instinct to tell their story with the world, or share, or attention.
Mm-hmm.
People want attention too. Like, let's not get it confused. People like attention. So it's vital, and businesses are no different. Like your job is no different. Your place of employment is no different. You're like everything has a story. What that looks like, it doesn't matter. Someone's going to watch it. Like, and that's when I got over myself. Like, and the same thing with pictures. I hate pictures of myself. I don't like being in front of the camera. Like, but you know what? That's me. That's my ego talking. I got to get over myself.
Totally true. If I could list off to you the number of celebrities that I've worked with as well, or when we're making commercials, like big budget stuff, like the actors hate looking at their dates. These are professionals that have, like, a lot of them have gone to school. They have master's degrees in acting and directing. They've been on TV shows. They've done stage plays. They hate watching themselves back as much as anyone who hates watching themselves on their company's Zoom call. Like, it's just a human thing.
It's good to know.
We are the worst judges of ourselves. We're so mean to ourselves.
You know what's even a bigger trip is when you're editing yourself. So I edit my own videos. So I have my vlog, and it's just like, editing myself. I'm used to it now, but like, it's a really good exercise. Frozen,
wherever you freeze the clip, and there's that frozen thing on your face. It's never in a good position. It's always in like
it's terrible. So
starting to stroke out position. Yeah, exactly.
So we got on a tangent there, and that's just what I do. But sorry. So in terms of like that first year, though, that first year really like stripping myself down, and being a former coach, that's what we used to do with players. We used to be like, okay, well, we're gonna, this first week's gonna be hard, man. We're gonna break y'all down, and then we're gonna build y'all back up in the way that we kind of need you to be to make this team successful. I just happened to do that on a life, and it was my own internal breaking down of myself, and then building myself back up. And you got to see that as in story format or even just content format. And I'm still doing that. That's the crazy part. It's always going to be an evolution. And so that's what I learned is like, holy crap, I haven't even arrived yet. And I probably won't even arrive until I'm 85. That's the way my brain works.
And you're doing it too. Like I see the professional content, but there's also this time that we're in right now where entrepreneurs are building their own brands and things. I'm seeing the content that you do that is in your, unscripted private part of your life as well. There are aspects of like you hanging out on the back porch and sharing stuff with us through reels and things like that.
Yeah.
And I love that those stories can coexist now.
Yeah.
That we're allowed to be whole humans instead of just the polished version.
Yeah.
And I just think you do that balance really, really well. People could really take some notes for the way that you're doing that because it always comes off as super authentic.
Well, I don't. And the funny thing is to me is it doesn't feel all the way authentic, but I try to make it look like it's authentic. If that makes sense.
You know what? It's impossible. It's impossible to not know that the camera's on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the red light's on, so there's always going to be a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But
because you want it to be like,
and
a joy to watch. But like, I do think though that one of the important things for me though is to make sure that like, especially if we're in this conversation, like how I'm coming across is how you gonna come across me if you just ran into me in the street and I had no clue who you were. Like, and I didn't even know that you watch my content or nothing. I don't like the ego thing about the photos and stuff. Like same thing goes with my content. I don't assume that you've seen my content because why would I feel I'm that important? For one, I don't feel I'm that important. I don't feel like I've done enough. And that's my own work to do. I understand that. I get that. That's my own work to do, right? But when we all have those insecurities or those doubts in our minds, I'm a very confident person and humble person in that way. But like, yeah, we all have insecurities. We all have things that we don't like about ourselves or whatever. But I don't even pay attention to those, man. Like, I'm just moving. I'm telling my story. Like, this is me. So when my grandkids, like, enter this earth or they know who their grandpa was. Like, this is this is the craziest. Like, your grandchildren are going to know exactly who you are. Your great-grandchildren are going to know who you are via the content that you have put out in this lifetime and the story that you've been telling. And
it's so crazy to
that's
think
crazy
of.
to me.
Yeah. I mean, just think about the stuff that we dug through when we were still little. Like it was maybe you had a weathered photo album from your grandparent with missing pictures that fell out.
The photo album with the sticky that you pulled up the little plastic you had to pull up and pull the pictures off the sticky thing.
Yeah, and maybe there was like if you flipped over every once in a while, there might be a couple tidbits of like, this was great Aunt June and at her graduation and this date or something. But like it was like putting together a puzzle that you were never going to get all the pieces to.
Yeah.
But now, like, who knows? Maybe they'll be like so overwhelmed with the content they'll be like, yeah. But I mean,
or they're going to look at this content will be 2D. Like the content that they're going to be looking at is going to be like 3D AR. They're going to be immersed in it and stuff. And it's going to be all around them, and they're going to be looking at this little old relic of a 2D screen. Like, oh wow, this is so great. This is old.
Yeah, they're going to be like, I can't even load this into my headset or my chip. It's embedded in my retina. So
right.
I don't know what's the point.
Neuralink.
I was wondering because when people are making the decision to make that transition between one chapter of their story and the next chapter, what's some of the stuff that surprised you that you were able to take as far as transferable skills? Like you were like, okay, I'm starting a whole new thing, and I know I'm excited about content creation. I know I'm excited about all this stuff, but what is it? So many times people will think like, well, I'm starting a new chapter of my story, so like it's all brand new now. It's a blank slate, and I have to leave all that stuff behind. What's some of the stuff that you brought with you that maybe you were even surprised by, where you're like, oh, I know how to do this really well because of all the times I had to do it in my past life. And people in this part of the story, in my new world, they don't even know how to do this as well as I do.
Yeah.
Like, did you have any of those moments?
Yeah, I did. Education, teaching, instruction. Like, I didn't realize that was such a skill when really, I mean, the last time I was evaluating teachers, there were 38 indicators. When I watched a lesson, there's 38 tick marks, 38 things that they had to hit. And each one of those 38 was on a rubric scale. So there's 5 over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So do that math. That's a lot of boxes, right? That you can potentially fall in just to teach a 60-minute lesson, right? So I didn't realize that how much skill was behind that. I didn't realize I'm not a verbal processor. I don't talk a lot. I know it's hard to believe, but I do enjoy talking. I do enjoy telling my story. But I didn't realize I was a talker. I didn't realize, I've been spending 12 years in front of people who I'm trying to deliver content to that don't necessarily want it. They didn't show up here because they paid to be here or anything. I have to figure out my tool belt. I gotta have a tool. I gotta have a toolbox. I gotta have a tool belt of ways to engage people. And so I didn't realize that was a skill. Bringing that into now keynote speeches and even just education with our office. So we do a call every week, or not a call, but I do classes every week. And so and sometimes, you know, the other thing is the coaching that I talked about. I did a lot of coaching. Like, we were bad for 3 years, and I talk about this all the time. And Ann says, "Why do you always focus on that?" I'm like, "Well, because that's when my most growth came. We were 2-18 3 seasons in a row, and that's when the most growth as a leader and coach came for me, because I had to really reflect on what I was doing, because it was very public that I was not getting it done, right? But I was getting it done. That's the thing.
You're doing the work.
I was getting it done. I was working on myself and my leadership and my coaching. My boys all had 3.0 team GPAs from all 3 teams. And even one of them works in our office as an agent now and just had their baby today. So
wow.
Like, I was doing the work. I was actually, so what we see and what we think is the story actually isn't. And the universe has something in mind for us down the road, as long as we're not cheating the game, we're being true to the game and being true to ourselves and being true to growing. It just, the seeds were all just being planted. I didn't even know it. Had no clue.
Has that come, I'm guessing that has come into play as well. I'm guessing if I went to one real estate brokerage, even in our city, and then went to Abode, that the vibe would be very different, because education and community and helping each other and kind of that the vibe that you have from your previous stories has got to infect, as a leader and co-owner of that business, it's got to infect the rest of your team, right?
I hope it does. I mean, that's the hope, you know, that's the goal. That's the driver, because there are some things that you can't, like, I can't fake my social justice stances. I can't fake I can't fake that. That's not fake. That's me being really raw and honest. And it's coming from a place of good intent, you know, like, because I want the world to look like this. I want the world to have everyone have an opportunity. I'm not saying that we're not a capitalist society. There's not winners or losers. I'm not that. I'm not about eighth place trophies. Don't get me wrong. However, I want everyone to have a chance to get to the first and third, to the podium. Everyone should have a chance to get to the podium. You know what I'm saying? And I want that because I want competition, because I'm competitive. Give me all the smoke. I want all the smoke.
I learned that about you really quick.
Yeah, I want all the smoke.
You're a good guy and you have good vibes, but also you want to win.
I want to win. And I know you are too. Like, it's the same.
You spot it, you got it. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so true.
But yeah, if I had to guess 2 things that were transferable that I didn't realize, it was the coaching. Because knowing that so even just this morning, this session, it was less about education and knowing how to put a lesson together and all that kind of stuff, and more about coaching and mindset and all of those things. And then it was the instruction. So coaching and instruction are 2 things that I didn't realize were transferable skills.
You were like, this is just the way you do it. And other people in your industry, and specifically like that own a brokerage, would have been like, we wouldn't know to do it that way. You're like, no, but this is the best way to do it.
That's cool. Like, I have some value here. You know, that's good.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that people listening to this as well can start to think of maybe themselves in similar positions. Like, it's not that you have to start over with a completely blank slate. You take what you know innately and you can apply it to new chapters you want to write in your own story,
Right.
and different ways that you want to help and serve people. And that there's opportunities to do that and not to wait. Like, do what Dave has done and don't wait. Just start creating content. The content will get better. You will
Yes.
learn new things as you create. You will, if you're not, I had someone tell me at one point that if I was not embarrassed every 2 years by what my content looked like 2 years ago, if I look at it, that I wasn't doing a good job.
Yeah.
Like, you should be embarrassed 2 years out from any of your stages of creating content or marketing or sales or building your team or the way that you were a leader. Like you were talking about with your story before, like, the growth happens in those in between places.
Oh man.
You only notice it later in 2020 hindsight.
So much growth. And you know, and it's funny because it's all about perspective. Like, who's looking at it with that critical of an eye? If someone is looking at your content and going back 2 years and they're looking at it with that critical of an eye, I would categorize them as a hater. And do we want haters around, or do we want to be even associated with haters? Nah. So let them go over there and hate. Cool. If I got haters, that means you're spending time thinking about me. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's flattering that you care that much.
Yeah. Thanks for caring so deeply.
So then the question is, am I my own hater? You know, like, or am I just being critically, just being critical? And there's, it's okay to be critical of yourself. I'm very critical, but like, or am I my own hater, or am I just being critical to get better and just make sure that I'm, improving?
It's okay to have that moment of looking at that thing that you made 2 years ago and go, I feel that a little bit because I know how to do that 8 different ways from Sunday better than that now. But at the same time, look how much I've grown. I'm not going to wallow in that.
Yep.
Like, look how much I've grown.
Because you can see the fruit. Like, if you watched my first listing video, I don't shoot listing videos anymore. I'm long gone. But when you watched the first one, and it was a little townhome up in North Tacoma, and man, it was terrible. It was so bad. Even my second one, my third one, they were so bad, right? But you could see the vision. I'm like, man, I see what I'm trying to do there. I was like, yeah, I'm actually cheering myself on. I'm actually talking to myself. I'm talking to the creator. Like, when I watch these, I'm like, ooh, I see you, boy. Like, I see what you're trying to do, man. And so that's what I do when I look at other people's art. I don't sit there, like, I talk to I get a lot of videographer people, like, in my DMs and stuff like that. And I just try to give free game, because when I was trying to learn, it seemed like everyone was tight-lipped about stuff. And I was like, well,
interesting.
This seems weird, because and so I try to share everything. I'm like, oh, you want to know what I do? Here's what I use. Here's a place where
here's the lighting kit that I use.
Because I know you aren't going to do it like me. Like, we have different eyes, we have different perspectives, we have different lives. And so I'm okay with that. Like, I'll give you all the stuff because you're not going to do it like me, and I'm not going to do it like you. But I can see the seeds, and my whole point, I want to push people to, like, say, like, man, I see what you're trying to do. Like, if you just keep doing it, you're going to win. Repetition, repetition, repetition. Put in the work. Like, there's no silver bullet. There's no jump off the ledge, challenge yourself. And yep, it's going to be challenging financially, physically, spiritually, all the things, right? Like, it's not going to feel good. Most people don't want to purposely do that. Well, what's worse is doing the same thing over and over and over again and being in the same box and never growing.
Yeah, I know, right? That doesn't feel good either.
That doesn't feel good. So now all of a sudden you have the two choices. Do I take the short term, like, feel bad and then come out the other side? It's like a butterfly, I don't know, a chrysalis or whatever. You come out and you got wings and you colorful and all those things. Or am I just going to be the same person I was, and just keep it moving? That's fine too. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that those are choices that we have to make.
It's a choice. At least be conscious of the choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like, I stripped my basketball identity. You see my basketball identity in the videos that I make, but, like, if you didn't know that, like, I play every Sunday. I am a junkie. Like, instead of sitting on the couch, I would go down to the Furcrest Rec Center and shoot baskets for 30 minutes because I love basketball. But you don't see on my stories me setting up the camera and me shooting, a couple jump shots and saying, still got it, like, because
I want that content. Please make that content.
But it's not my identity anymore. And because I've grown, I have different things that I'm interested in and want to share with the world other than basketball, because that was my only identity. I was robbing myself of all these other things.
When you decided to make the transition, and you're talking about right now, like the different aspects of your life and what you choose to show and what you don't, and that changes over time when you're making content, or when you're starting a new story in a business as well. But like I hinted at before, you and I are in a unique position, and I know that other entrepreneurs that choose to work with their partners are as well. Like, what did you find on your journey with working with Ann and kind of defining your roles at home, as parents, as partners, and as business owners? What advice would you give to someone that maybe is thinking about doing the same thing? Like, maybe they have started spinning up a small business. It's just getting to the point where they can pay themselves enough for one salary, and it's approaching the point where, like, oh, we might be able to support the whole family on this if my partner came in too and used their skill set. Is there any advice you would give them as far as like things that you learned, or that like you maybe even hit your head on and you're like, if I had to do that again a different way, this is how I would have approached that instead? Any golden pearls you could give people?
Oh, it's the golden pearl. It's one. I have one piece of advice. It's the golden pearl.
Yep.
Get therapy and get a coach.
I promise you, I did not take him to say that.
That's
but he's
100%.
right,
I'm
because
not
we have
even joking.
coaches too.
I'm not even joking. Not like, we didn't talk about this. This is just my personal, like, I will tell this to everybody. Get a coach, get therapy, and if they can do both, then great. But like, yes, to those two things, because if you're going to go into business, even if it's someone else, if it's another person, everyone has different goals. Everyone works differently. Everyone has it. We were married for almost 20 years before we went into business together.
Oh, wow.
And I thought I knew my wife until I started working with her. And I knew, obviously we knew each other as partners and family members, but like in terms of a work business partner, that was a different partnership. And so that was we had to work through some things to get to the point where, because let's say you're at a job, right? And I want to give an example for someone that's listening and might not understand what I'm talking about.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Perfect.
So let's say you don't show up to work 100% every day, right? I mean, like, I know I don't. Like, I'm not my best self all the time, and we all are.
Sorry, yeah.
You know, there might be a day we mail it in and be like, man, I just wasn't good today. Most times your coworkers or your superiors or someone can't see the other side of that. Well, you know what? You ain't eating right. You didn't go to bed early. You stayed up last night watching YouTube videos of whatever. And that's why you didn't come in and you weren't good. There's a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your employers don't know that reason. Your significant other, on the other hand, knows the reasons. So
anyone listening right now, please write this shit down. This is truth. He is dropping knowledge bombs right now.
I don't need to even say more, right? So that's just a dynamic that you have to work around, because you now see behind the curtain of performance, and that's not always going to be what you want to see. And so then are we still working now, or are we just giving ourselves an opportunity to be human, right? Mm-hmm. So, and if you have two competitive people or whatever, in which we both are, we have to remind ourselves we're on the same team sometimes. But because we're competitive, like, and that's what I think makes this business go. I think it's what makes the culture. It's what helps us keep the spark of what we have is just how we're wired. But at the same time, you have to kind of, that's good, but also it can be a detriment at sometimes too. And so you have to figure out what that looks like for your partners. And everyone's different. Everyone doesn't have the same makeup as we do. So get a coach and/or therapy.
Yeah.
Or both.
Both I found was the magic bullet for us.
Mm-hmm.
But working on your own stuff and then working on what you want to do in the future proactively, so so important if you're going to be working together like that. And
Oh, man.
everyone, seriously, I'm going to say it again because it's important. Like what Dave just said about the fact that if you're working with your partner, they see both sides. They see after work you and they see at work you.
Yep.
Okay. And so it's that balance there. Like the fact that there is no like going behind the curtain afterwards and being like, at least that day's over and I can just like, no, that person maybe is even riding home with you in the car.
Yep.
So you gotta put in that work and realize that it's going to be different. And also like what Dave just said, what you just said as well about allowing each other to be human and give each other some grace too, because it's not about, you find out at some point, at least I have, that like, it's not about trying to evolve into the more perfect version of yourself where you're perfect at home and at work.
Right.
Like leveling up or something in front of that person all the time in some weird way in my head that I had. But it's like, no, allowing them to have the off day.
Right.
And not calling them on the carpet for the fact that like they're human and they had a tough day before and they found some YouTube videos and they stayed up a little bit late watching them because that's what they needed right then. And they're a human and I'm a human and like, it's okay.
But what an opportunity. Like when you think about the human, like just your life in general, what other opportunity do you have outside of like maybe coaching your own kids? Like if I was the head coach and and I'm coaching my son, it's a similar dynamic. But it's different, you know, it's just different, but it's a similar dynamic. But what an opportunity as a human to have someone have that type of access to you as a professional and human. Like it's not always normal to have that curtain be lifted both professionally and personally. And so I feel honored actually, and really, it's just been a trip, man. It's been a journey. It's been enlightening, not only just for myself, but then also for Anne, my wife, and business partner. And so, yeah, there's just some things that you can't replace, and it's just I'm just so grateful to have that opportunity to do that. Like I'm grateful to wake up and just even do what I do. It's just like, man, are you kidding me? Like what?
It's such a different feeling, isn't it? It's, man, when you get to that point and when you can start to cultivate that gratitude. I know that's been a journey for me, is not, you know, with the competitive thing, like you said, like I can always my brain a lot of times can get hooked on, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What are we moving towards? And Jenny, my partner's been really, really great at being like, but look at what we're doing right now. It is a Tuesday and we are drinking coffee outside at 10 a.m. in between meetings. And like talking about how we want the business to grow this next year. We are not, our asses are not in a car on I-5 stuck in 2.5 hours of traffic each way anymore.
Texting like, about who's going to get the kids, who's
enjoy this right now.
Yeah.
Like what's amazing right now, not just what's always in the future and the next thing and the next thing and then level up.
And what will happen is you're going to naturally, you're going to naturally level up. You're going to naturally level up because the things are going to find their way to you. They're going to find their way. Like, that's why I say I don't even know what the next 5 years looks like. I didn't know coming into this year that I'd be shooting LeBron James.
That's just crazy.
I didn't know that I'd be going to do a keynote in Massachusetts, but I did have affirmations. And I show my people this all the time. I'm like, look, this stuff didn't just happen on accident. Look at my affirmations in January. Look at them, how I wrote them down in February. Look at what I was writing down. And then all of a sudden, stuff just started. It wasn't just happening. It was kind of manifesting itself. And that's what I learned in this whole story process of moving over was gratitudes and affirmations, and how that's really completely just changed my whole life.
Yeah, it's like writing your base program every day, your operating system for your brain, and then your brain goes to work and finds ways to make it happen.
Yep. And I saw your story this morning, or your reel on not want to do it. I wake up and I had a terrible workout this morning because it was my first one of the week. I go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday, and then I take Monday, Tuesday off for the business so I can get that up and running and just focus on business. But and that's not all just working out. That's basketball. I play in a league on Sundays and whatever. I play a couple times and I work out 3 times, whatever. But like, my workouts aren't the best. I know that. I'm old. Like, but
hey, watch it. I'm the same age as you.
Brick by brick, though. Brick by brick. Brick by brick. You know, like
Yeah.
to this morning wasn't great, but I got in there. I got 35 minutes of activity, sweat, move my body brick by brick. I know tomorrow's going to be better. I know tomorrow's going to be better. I know it. I already know because I got up and I made that choice to do that hard thing that I didn't want to do today.
Yep. Yeah. That's where the habits and the discipline will come in.
Yep.
Because motivation comes and goes, doesn't it?
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Especially when you're running a business. Your brain's being pulled in all kinds of different directions on
You want
any
to know
given
what
day.
I'm really thinking? I'm trying to retire right now. Like, let's be honest. Like, we all want
That's
that,
what
right?
I'm talking about.
We all want all the things, but it comes with a price. It comes with some sacrifice, and if you might as well be doing the things you want to do and building yourself up in the process while you're doing it.
Yeah, speaking about that, because I want to let that go. You did hear him correctly, by the way, when he said that like he was just shooting with LeBron James, and you are guest speaking as well. Didn't you just get back from guest speaking like all the way across the country? You were on the East Coast.
Yeah, I was asked to do a keynote over in Massachusetts for Massachusetts Association of Realtors recently, and yeah, if you want to go on my LinkedIn, I haven't posted that video up there yet, but I will. So yeah, that was fun. It was a good time. Met some new people. I said, why not? You know, like, did it have impacts on the backside? Of course, because I was, you know, tired. It was a quick trip turnaround, and it did impact me. But for that experience, like, I was just grateful to even have the opportunity. So there you go. I took it. And something else will come of that.
Where can people start to follow some of the content and some of the things that you're excited about that are coming up? Like,
oh man,
some of the stuff where's the best place for people to start seeing your content and all that stuff?
I'd say Instagram is probably the best place. Instagram, my handle is The Deacon, THADEACON. And if you go there, you can find me. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, but Instagram is probably my favorite place because I am a creator, and you'll get to see my thoughts on digital assets, digital collectibles, NFTs, real estate,
This
just
man
a
has his
smattering of
fingers
stuff.
in all the pies. Like he schools me regularly. Like other people at our movie nights we have in our backyard are like watching the movie, and he's teaching me about blockchain. So this man has lots of interest in lots of different areas, as you have seen. And so check out his content, especially the fact that like if you have followed me at all and you've seen what I talk about as far as just turn on the camera, just start. Like Dave is such a great example of that. Like he was talking about with his first video where he was making video content for real estate listings all the way to his stuff is amazing.
I appreciate that, man.
Check it out. He's self-taught. He's learning. He's constantly evolving. So anyone that thinks that you have an excuse for why you can't start and you'll never get good at it, watch his content because whatever you're telling yourself right now is complete bullshit.
It's all self-taught, man. Never went to school for it. I don't know story arcs and stuff. I do now, but yeah, all self-taught. Asking questions,
Dave,
asking Aaron.
Thank you so much for slicing off some time so that we could do this today. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on, man. I love the story. Keep making the content. I think it's very valuable for people, and hopefully someone found some value out of this one.
Oh, I know that they will. All right, my friend. Thank you so much for coming today.
All right, man. Thank you.
Absolutely.